Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Capitol Update. Today I'm fortunate to have Representative Connie Doepke from 33B. Welcome, Representative.
Thank you very much, Randy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh.
I always enjoy, having your programs and being here and talking to my district about things that are going on in the district.
Well, I'm always happy that you take the time out of your busy schedule to come here and help us get this information out to the district.
Yep.
Connie, the last time we were on the show, we talked about a lot of things. One, the budget was just being passed after special session, and we focused a lot on education reform.
Yep.
Today I was hoping on the show that we'd talk about three different things. We touched upon this a little bit on the last show, but we didn't get into it, this Reform 2.0 that we're starting to read about in the newspaper and hearing about things. Obviously the Vikings Stadium is a hot topic, and I think we should touch on that a little bit. And then also a topic that is very important to the voters and everybody, the elected officials, is that we have redistricting and rebounding that's going to start occurring.
That's huge.
But I think we should start with the first half of the show talking a little bit about Reform 2.0.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that you can give us a little bit of overview of what is Reform 2.0 and then give us some more details on it.
Yeah. Well, if Reform 2.0, and I'm very happy to be able to talk about that, is because a lot of people are aware of it, but those that aren't, the 2.0 piece of it means that this is the second year of the biennium. We did accomplish, even with the shutdown that we had this summer, a lot of reform last year that the governor was able to sign, and quite frankly, we came away from that, even in the over-session, with a lot of good things that were happening, with the idea of long-term reform for this state. And so 2.0 simply means this is the second year of the biennium, and we are going to start now, and we have been since August. We have been working very diligently with the governor, with the both sides of the aisle on issues that we think are important. And I think that people are hearing that the governor did a job summit. It's all about really growing jobs in this state. And as a member of the tax committee, I was asked to really reach out to the business community. So I have spent my fall really working with local business leaders. I've contacted all of our Chamber of Commerces in this district, and we've had some wonderful meetings. And the focus is really, there have been listening sessions. We've had other legislators, by the way, too, that are traveling all over the state, working on government reform. Shared services is another thing that's going on. And the most important thing for us was really to reach out to people and talk to people about what is it that you really need. What do you want from us, whether it's tax reform, whether it's regulation reform. And I actually asked my constituents three things, and the three questions I asked them is, tell me how we can get things to you faster. Let me know if you see signs of unnecessary overlap among different levels of government. And how can government get out of the way or help you to improve your business? And it was so interesting because of the several meetings that I have had, and each meeting was scheduled for about a half an hour to an hour. Some of these meetings became so, people were so engaged that we spent well over an hour, and I would have many people there, local businesses and so forth. And we've come away with some wonderful ideas. So
when you say engaged, I mean, give me an example of something that they're engaged about. What are they, what kind of feedback are you receiving?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think what I have found that people are really happy that as a legislature, not just myself, but all of us, that we are, and the governor, are coming to them and saying, what is it that we need to do to help you? And working through the Chamber of Commerce's, we have great, wonderful chambers in our district. And people were thrilled to be able to come, and they were excited to talk to me about these issues. And we spent as much time as they wanted, having them sharing with me the ideas that they had. And my thought was, when I was working with all the chambers, I sent out a letter to them, and I said, and even the other business communities, and I said, I want to come away with at least 3 to 5 really good solid ideas, and under each one of those categories I'd like you to give me examples of what it is that you're looking for. And so it was kind of like, in one of the chambers I was at, it was interesting. We talked for about an hour and a half, and they all came away saying it was kind of like a therapy session. Yeah. It was a cleansing. But there are certain common themes that I am finding, and I'm also a member of the Small Business Caucus in the legislature, and we are coming together. It was not just tax reform, but and recognition for the business community, but regulation reform and other policy initiatives. This session that we're going into now is really not a funding session. That was last year, so this is really a policy year. So even though Reform 2.0, there will be some tax information in there, and we will be dealing with the November forecast that's going to be coming out and seeing where we stand in comparison if we're going to continue to be in a deficit situation in the second half of the biennium. However, and that will be important. However, the big thing is to have long-term policy initiatives. And they're just things the permitting, for instance. A lot of our businesses even though we did some permitting change last year, some of the local builders and so forth, they're still taking a long time. And in this kind of economy, they have investors and so forth that invest in their businesses, and it takes a long time, and they have to go through different government agencies. One of the things that I've heard at every single session is we need to figure out a way to have government entities work together. Sure. And to eliminate the silo management. And yesterday, as a matter of fact, I was talking to some of our builders, and they were talking about how they have to go, in order to get a permitting process to go forward to do some building, they have to go through about 6 different agencies in order to get approval, and sometimes there'll be 3 agencies on one topic, and they overlap, and some of the agencies don't even know that the information it's been duplicated. But
now, that won't be Reform 2.0, or are you going to try to identify these issues where there's redundancies occurring?
Yes, we'll start to identify them. We will be obviously working with the governor on this too, but it's something that I think that we all have to be very sensitive to, that in this kind of an economy, we need to have these small businesses, middle-sized business, whatever, why are we giving these hurdles to them?
Sure.
Some of them obviously need to stay in, and we have to be very cognizant, whether it's the environment or some of the other things. But when we have duplication of it, we have to cut down that overlap. Yeah. And that's really what they're talking about.
Okay. Now, I do have a question with the 2.0. This is a legislative action.
Yes.
But if you had 3 items that you could have happen in Reform 2.0, what would they be?
Well, if I had my dream, I would, as we're going through and looking at all these, and we're still collecting the information, I would love to help my folks with the overlapping of and make it easier and clearer for people to understand up front. And I would say one thing that they said is, for a new business, if we can do something in using technology to have a website where someone who wants to start a business have a portal that they can go to that says, this is my business, what do I need for my business to get started? Okay. and to make,
So one would be making existing business less hoops to jump through, make it more streamlined, and a business coming in to say, what do I need to be compliant with the state, and make it as streamlined, as quick and inexpensive as possible.
Exactly, and that's really what it is too. I mean, I think that would be absolutely one of the things, and and so those are the kinds of things that are happening. Obviously, there's I think we have to be more consistent in our tax code and when we're, you know, taxing, and that's another thing that I think that has come up that people are interested in. Their needs. I would hope also, and we're talking about transparency. I think that at the area of local government, some of the things that people are looking at in this 2.0 is having more transparency at the local level as well as within the schools and so forth as to how their taxes are being, you know, spent. And I think that that's something that people will be working on.
Is that part of the 2.0 then?
That's
tax reform
absolutely,
and tax transparency?
Yes.
Because we, you know, I also do the Tonka report, and when I was speaking with some of the mayors, that's one of the issues that always comes up as a mayor when you have your truth in taxation.
Yes.
There's 3 bodies that tax in Minnesota, and cities are only a portion of it. It's hard to get that information from the respective cities and counties.
Yeah, well, I think that that's, it is
schools
hard.
and counties.
And schools and counties, and I think that that's, and in each one of the meetings, even though they've been concentrated on business and so forth, that issue has come up as, well, you know, this is happening and this is maybe a city ordinance or whatever, and I always tell them that, well, you do need to work with your city officials, and that in this economy, I see that that's going to continue. And we are very lucky. We have wonderful mayors in this district. You're a former mayor yourself, and I think that, but we need to have our citizens now realize that more and more our local units of government are going to be making some of the tough decisions, and that so that taxpayers who are closer to those local units of government have more of a say in what's going on. They have a little bit more authority to say, yes, I want to do this, or this is what I can live without, or this is what I can't live without. Certainly in our schools, and we don't increase our levies and whatever unless we go to the voters. That's something that we do. The cities have a little bit more leeway, but it's very important that when we have local elections, that people vote for people that they trust and that they realize that these folks have a lot to do with how their cities are run and how their schools are run and so forth. And I think that more and more, this is where we are going as a state. I think obviously that I'm hoping that we're going to have some more mandate reduction at the state level so local cities and local governments can do more with the money that they have. And that is something that I have worked on for a long time, and I'm hoping that that's going to continue in this Reform 2.0. But what we're really looking for is 2 or 3 really good things that we can hang on to and that the governor will pass and he'll be happy with, as well as we, you know, as the legislature.
But I hope that we can get that through, and then I also hope that if, you know, when the governor signs, should he sign these things in, as you just said, for Reform 2.0, that they're long lasting. Because you know, we get change in and it seems like the right thing to do, and 4 years from now they change it all. Now, if we're changing it because it makes sense, that's one thing, but to change it for the sake of taking it away because it's not what a different body wants. I, as a previous mayor, would love to see more of the control come back to the local level where the people can actually get a hold of it.
Yep, and that's really what it's all about. And I think, you know, people say don't ever let a good crisis, you know, get lost, but do something good with it. And I think that this economy has, I know that there's this sense that we're really divided and that everybody's fighting with each other and you can't ever get together. But the reality of it is that we're going to come out of this working closer together than we ever have. We're
going to have to.
And we have to. And I think that early in the session last year, we had 3 great reforms that came through that the governor partnered with us on. In education, it was alternative to teacher licensure, and in regulation reform, it was the permitting process that we did primarily for the northern part of the state, and things like that. And we should continue to be able to work in a way that we can feel good about the things that we're going to do. Obviously, there's always going to be differences, and there are different ways to approach it, but we have to do. and come together to do what's best for the people of the state. And this is the way I'm working with my communities. Good. And I'll tell you, when I represent my communities at the district, I'm very close to and meet regularly with my mayors, my police chiefs, fire departments and things like that, and local units of government, because they're the ones that really know what needs to be done, and I listen to them. Good. And that's why I've loved working on this Reform 2.0, because now I've gotten very close with our chambers and our business community, and other people are calling me and saying, can we do a Reform 2.0 meeting? And that's what I did yesterday with a group of builders and commercial property owners and things like that, and we spent a lot of time. We need to take a break here. We could keep talking about this, but we do have other things, so we're going to take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll pick up and start talking about the Vikings Stadium and then get to redistricting. Good. So please stay tuned. We'll take a little break and be back to talk about the next two topics.
We interrupt this program to bring you this important message.
The Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission, located in Spring Park, Minnesota, offers free television production classes. You heard it right. Free, free, free. Our friendly and knowledgeable staff will help bring your idea to the big screen.
Why, thank you. We are very friendly and knowledgeable.
From studio lighting and nonlinear editing to on-location shooting, we'll guide you down the path you need to succeed. Hurry in, folks. An opportunity this good won't last forever.
Well, welcome back. For this half of the show, I thought we would concentrate a little bit on the Viking Stadium issue that we've been hearing so much about. And then another issue that you may have heard something about but don't know a lot about, and that's the redistricting. So Connie, let's start with the Viking Stadium. Yes. I'm going to give you my opinion on this. I think having the Vikings in the state is extremely important. Yes. I am not so firm on the fact that I think we need to move to Arden Hills, only because of the fact that we've spent a lot of money developing Minneapolis as an economic hub in the Dome down there. And while the Dome is not the most friendly place to go watch football, I think this is not the time to be spending money on state money on this. And I also think that the process needs to be a little bit more involved. But that's my opinion. I'm going to ask you, what is happening with the Viking issue? Well,
first of all, before I get into it, because this is one of the areas where I get tons of emails on, and I'm very conscious about listening and reading every email and seeing what my district wants to do. But I do want to say and assure the folks in my district that this is something we do have to deal with this session. I'm happy that it's unfolding the way it is. And I want to say that we all don't want to see the Vikings leave. I mean, there isn't one person that I'm working with that wants them to leave. And they feel that they're an essential part of our culture in this state, and that there was nothing more fun when the economy started to tank than seeing Brett Favre, in 2 years ago, his first season with us. Right. And it brought us together. All right, having said that, the issue is really it's not a political issue. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. It's really, the issue is how we're going to pay for it. And in my district, 68% of the folks in a survey that I did at the end of last year do not want to raise taxes to pay for the stadium. And there has been a back and forth about whether they would take it to, if it went to Arden Hills, whether it would go to a vote of the citizens. I think right now the governor actually has come out now and said, no, we're not going to raise taxes on people, and we're without making sure that that's what they want to do first. But there are several different scenarios out there. I think we do need to deal with it. I feel very strongly that we need to be very thoughtful in the report as we approach it. And I'm looking forward to the debate, quite honestly. Some of my constituents have asked me, are you for it, are you against it? I said, I can't tell you until I see what the deal is, but I don't want them to leave. I was at a fundraiser the Vikings did last week for children in hunger. And they're wonderful young men. I talked to a lot of them, that you get a personal face on it. But I think exactly what you said, that our priority right now is bringing jobs back to the state of Minnesota, and that's where we need to be focused, and a special session could be derailed on it, and I think we're going to try to take care of it in the session for sure.
I want to make this comment because I've been hearing a lot in the news about, well, if we build the stadium, we bring jobs. And while I agree with that, that you do create jobs, they're short-term jobs, and I know that it's all, call it stimulus. But to me, at the end of the day, when the building is done, I think the net effect of jobs created in Minnesota would be zero from moving the Vikings. Losing the Vikings, so this becomes a binary thing, 1 or 0. Either we have the Vikings or we don't. If we lose the Vikings, that's a huge impact. So
it is a huge
we do need to keep them here. I just get a little upset that we have the Twin Stadium as a guide for them to work with, and I wasn't a big proponent of how we did the Twin Stadium. I think a few things could have been done differently, and I don't want us to dwell too much on this. I'm happy to hear that you're saying the focus is still on jobs. I'm happy to hear that you're saying the Vikings are important, but we need more information.
Yeah, and they are important, and I do get. But my constituents right now, they don't want to be taxed. Most of them don't want to be taxed, but I will tell you, I am keeping very close tabs on those emails that are coming in. I look at the results of my survey, and I will vote as a result of how my folks want to handle it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people would probably like us to talk another 15 minutes on the Vikings Stadium, but there is another issue that sits out there that I think more of us that are involved in the political wonks know a lot about this, and the average person is probably not that aware of what's really going on. But every 10 years, the state goes through redistricting. And from my understanding, and I'm going to make the statement and I want you to correct me, it happens for one main reason. Population shifts across the state, and we try to keep each of the districts to be the same population so that each representative represents the same number of people. So we're going through this right now, and this process started, what, 4 months ago, 5 months ago?
Well, actually, no. The process actually started last January.
Okay.
And one of Sarah Anderson, who is the chair of the redistricting committee, in the House of Representatives, she started doing her homework on this even before the last session started. So in January, her committee, which is a bipartisan committee, started to work on putting together a redistricting plan. That plan was reviewed and presented on the House floor. They had a similar committee in the Senate. And it was voted both on the House and the Senate off the House floor at the end of the last session. The governor did veto that particular plan, and I understand that this is not the first time a governor has vetoed a legislative plan for redistricting. And he then turned it over to the Minnesota state courts to really review it, to make sure that it was meeting all the criteria that they felt was right, and then to come back with another decision. It's amazing to me that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, so it's in the hands of the judges, and their decision is not due until February 21st.
Yes, exactly.
And today, when we're taping this, is the last day that each party could present their final plan.
That's correct.
And I thought that you had said before we started speaking here that the House and the Senate, which is controlled by the Republicans right now, have submitted their plans prior, because Sarah brought those up and you voted on them.
Yes.
But the DFL representatives and legislators have not presented a plan.
No, not yet.
And the plan that would have been submitted today, will that come from them or from the party?
Well, actually, the plan that the DFL party is putting together and will be public as of today is done by the state party, the DFL state party. The minority legislature chose not to put together a plan. And so they were part of obviously on the committees and so forth, but being in the minority, if they had an issue or whatever, obviously they didn't all get what they thought they wanted.
Okay.
And the courts are very specific about what you have to do about redistricting. The districts have to be equal in size, And they also have to, if you have a body of water like Lake Minnetonka, and I'd like to just kind of talk about our district for a while, is that the important thing is they said that that body of lake, if it's central to the area, it should remain, that the towns around that lake should remain part of the, the Senate district.
Right.
And so that, those kinds of things were actually put in the legislative plan. Now, the one thing that I think is really important for our district to know is that the Lake Minnetonka district, that there has been a large shift in population and between the House districts, not the Senate district as a whole as much, but between the House districts. And the population in our state in general has been moving out of the traditional metro areas, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and has been going north in this area, and has been going west. So the northwestern part of the suburban area in Minnesota, their population has really changed, whereas the Minneapolis districts haven't. And some of the southern part of the districts are really losing population. It seems to be a more mobile part of the state. People are moving. If they're retiring, they're moving out of the state to avoid, taxes and so forth. And so the southern part of our Senate district lost about 2,000 people in the last 10 years. And so when we take a look at the legislative plan has our Senate district going east, which means that it will be going more into Minnetonka. And the current plan boundaries have the Senate district going as far as Hopkins Crossroads. Right now, our Senate district ends at about 101. It now goes out to Hopkins Crossroads, which is huge. It's huge. A big difference. Much more of the city of Minnetonka will be in the Senate District 33. And the western boundaries are pretty much the same. Might go a little bit farther beyond Mound, but that's about it. But we'll see today what the DFL party is, the state party is going to put together as their plan.
Okay.
And it's been a very I just think it's important for people to know that all over the western suburbs, that this is one of the biggest shifts in the state.
Is there a website that somebody could go to?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, today I did write that down, and I did want to give it. So it's www.mncourts.gov.
Okay, and so individuals can go there if they want to learn a little bit more, because we didn't have a lot of time. And Representative, we do have to wrap it up. That's the show today, but I want to thank you for coming on here. The next time we have you on the show, we will know more about redistricting and everything, and we can pick up the conversation a little bit and talk about how it's changing everything.
Yeah, absolutely. But
so,
they should keep their eyes and ears open to what's going on out here.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for joining us for this edition of a Capital Update. Remember, if you want to know what your local representative is doing, please tune in to our next issue. We'll see you then.